Shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our weekly Bible meditation. Today we are meditating about the 10th week of ordinary time. The 10th week in ordinary time started by the solemnity of Corpus Christi, the body and blood of Christ. And this solemnity helped us to enter into a covenant with God, where after Moses have read the word of God or the commandment of God, all the people answered that they will obey. This makes us enter a relationship of obedience where God gives us his love and we answer to his love by obeying his commandment. And we saw Jesus helping us, giving us his body and blood as our spiritual nourishment that makes us be engaged totally and fully in this relationship with God. It is why I suggest that this week our meditation be centered on this alliance, this contract, this covenant that makes us be full children of God. Then the question is, how do we live our Christianity? How do we live our being children of God? It is why on Monday, St. Paul, in his letter, his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verses 1 to 9, will say that God, or will bless God because of his proximity to his people. Will bless God that is supporting his people to live effectively their being children of God. Living these children of God is in fact living in Jesus himself, or living the Beatitudes that Matthew will talk about in his Gospel chapter 5 verses 1 to 12. And these Beatitudes are inviting us to adopt a way of living that calls and invites for this world to be for God, for this world to be a place where all are living faithfully and surely their relation with God, that nothing is stopping. It is why Matthew will invite us for spiritual poverty that can be understood also like this humility that makes us desire the presence of God, the help of God, the hand of God that directs and leads us in whatever we do. This will create in us this thirst and this hunger for the justice, for all. This makes us cry and mourn when we are not seeing the human beings like us living this justice, this peace that comes from God. Then this engages us and we become peacemakers. We become those who are carrying out and trying to be actors for the peace from God, to be a reality among the society. And on Tuesday, St. Paul will tell us that this life of beatitude is in fact a life in Jesus, whose life has been all through a yes to God. A life that made him will that the will of God be in all that he does. We'll see it in the 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 18 to 22. And this invites us also to engage ourselves in letting the will of God drives us in all that we do. This will make of us be lights of the world and salt of the earth. And this is the definition that Jesus is giving of the children of God. This makes us have a look on the salt and the light. We'll realize that the light never shines for itself, but it shines for others to see the beauty of the nature, to see the beauty of the creation. Then, us being the light is making people taste this goodness of God. Make people realize this will of God for us all to live under His protection, under His care, letting Him have all in us, leading us to Him. The salt, we realize also that the salt is not thirsty, or it is not giving taste to itself, but it arises the taste of the food that in which it has been used, and all those who taste the food realize its sweetness. Then for us to be salt of the earth is to give these tastes of the life in God to the world, to the society. For others, by seeing us, will realize that they need to draw nearer to God and live in Him. On Wednesday, St. Paul again will remind us that in Jesus, God has given us the competence. God has capacitated us to minister to the world under the new covenant. Jesus has given us all that we need to live as children of the new covenant. Therefore, we are to transmit the word of God to all in its strictness, in its truthness, in its completeness, without removing even a iota. Because Jesus, in whom we have been consecrated, said He did not come to remove, to change, but to accomplish. Then He has given us this possibility for us to make the Word of God be a reality among all the nations, among all the societies. This is what Matthew is telling us in his Gospel, chapter 5, verses 17 to 19. Then on Thursday, we'll realize that we are helped for us to liberate the world. We have been capacitated to liberate the world from all that constitute gods, all that chains the humanity, and it's not allowing it to meet God and to taste the sweetness, the bounty of God. Then we'll realize that we become these signs of the truthness of the world to bring all to the light of God. The second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verses 15 to chapter 4, verse 1 and verses 3 to 6. Then brothers and sisters will realize that this will make us have this desire to make all know the gospel. This will make us become bearers, carriers of the gospel, not because we carry a Bible under the armpit to go preaching, but because our life itself becomes a good news for all, so that people seeing us will get this desire to know about the one that we are bearing, the one that we are offering, and all will have this thirst, this desire to come to know this good news. Matthew chapter 5, verses 20 to 26. And on Friday, brothers and sisters, we'll realize that God will not come to the world when He is angry. God will come to the world with love, with the purpose to save us and dip us, introduce us in His love. It is why on that Friday we'll be celebrating the solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, this fountain of love, this furnace of love that we are called to admire, to adore, and to let it fill all our lives. Then we'll borrow from St. John Hughes this prayer that is inviting us to offer our wicked and dry heart to Jesus Christ, pleading and asking Him to transform our hearts in His own, so that we love not with our wicked heart, not with our dry heart, but we love with His big heart that accommodates all. And we live this compassion that comes from Him and that makes us go near to our brothers and sisters and testify to them this love of God. And this is seen in the book of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verses 31 to 37, where they pierced His heart on the cross and it became a wellspring of grace and all the life of the church, where we invited to come and fetch water from the springs of the life, calling us to live this life and be in our turn this wellspring that fills the world with the love. On Saturday, brothers and sisters, we'll realize that this is a call for us to let the love of Christ overwhelm the world, the whole world. To let the world be flooded by the love of God, and all will be transformed by this love of God. Brothers and sisters, as we are called to renew our relationship with God and to live faithfully our being children of God, let us just raise our voice to Him who has loved and called us, knowing our frailties. Let us raise our voice to Him and pray, asking Him to grant us His grace that will help us in all live according to His will. May God bless you, brothers and sisters.